Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Reaoch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Talk to Brazil, leading business podcast, talks with business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, an American known as the King of Networking, connecting people from my studio in Brazil. My friend and business networking partner, Khudania Ajay, joins us again from New Delhi, India. Ajay is the host of the global podcast show, the KAJ Masterclass Live, helping people learn better, earn better. And today's chat number 4 with Ajay, where we talk about business opportunities in Brazil and India.
Welcome to this very special series on India and Brazil on the KJ Masterclass Live every fortnight, along with my esteemed friend and podcast host, Tom Reaoch. You can see him on the screen. We explore together our nation's journeys in business culture and politics and podcasting as we strive to find our rightful place in the global arena. And as you can see, joining us live from Campinas, Brazil, is Tom Reaoch, who has spent his whole life there, an American known as the king of multicultural communication and networking, with a wealth of experience in market development and product management across diverse businesses. Tom is the founder and host of 3 business podcasts, a public speaker and author. His deep expertise and extensive network will provide invaluable insights into Brazil's dynamic landscape, and it is indeed. And today we will be talking on profitable business environment in Brazil and India for companies who want to invest here, especially small companies who will find their liking of business environment in both their countries. So we will be giving Tom this whole thing over now so that he can talk about the business environment in Brazil, so that more and more people learn about the business opportunities there, about the good environment, ready for businesses to come in. Over to you, Tom.
Well, thank you again, AJ, and thanks to the people following us. Now, this is the special series. This is our 4th chat that we've done talking about business and business between and in India and Brazil. So as we gain more energy, as we gain more inertia from our chats, we both have been able to see and follow these last few months exactly what we say could happen. It's happening. We've talked about success stories here for small businesses. We've talked about success stories there and here for big businesses. We've talked about different markets. We've talked a little bit about BRICS, which is the name for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. When we talk about that group, and what I see today is that both India and Brazil, they're not the game changers, but India and Brazil today are the game setters. And why is that? The positive business environment in India is known. We've talked about that, the opportunities that's there, its expansion, the multicultural influences even within India. The number of languages that you've learned, that you have, and how to deal with cultures within your own country. And we've talked about here from the Brazil standpoint that Brazil is a culture. It's still learning to work on the global stage, all right, and to gain its own strength. But more recently, we've seen that, the importance of the 2 countries, right? And I don't want to criticize any other country out there in the world, but I do want to call attention to India and Brazil. But we are at present here, 2023, the game setters. So we have individually massive markets, massive opportunities that we've talked about. But what's happened here recently in the Brazil economic scenario? I want to talk on a couple points here today. A couple of weeks ago, we've seen a change in the credit rating for the country. So the international credit rating agencies like Fitch and Standard & Poor's, Moody, they give a rating to a country. It's like we have personal. We have our own credit rating. So if Tom wants to go out and borrow money, if AJ wants to go out and borrow money, we have a credit rating. And maybe the bank or the lenders will give us money, or maybe they won't. And maybe they'll give us money and charge a higher interest rate, or maybe they won't. And the same thing happens with the country. So years ago, Brazil had what was called an investment grade rating. That investment grade credit rating opened an avenue of investment possibilities for massive investment funds. They could come because they could only invest in countries that have investment grade. Brazil lost that in 2015. So what happened from 2015 until now? We haven't gained it, but it stopped a number of investments coming to Brazil. And we know you can have opportunities. I can have an opportunity. You, AJ, can have an opportunity. But we need resources. We need money to make the engine run. It's the fuel for economic growth. It's money. And we know there's a lot of money out there. So that was a water on the fire from the Brazilian standpoint for many years. So last month, the rating agencies started to change a more favorable aspect to the Brazilian rating. It's not investment grade, but the tendency is set that it's pointing that direction. And why is that? It's not because they think it's a good idea, but the economic indicators show that the growth, the risk in Brazil has dropped, and dropping risk comes from political stability, all right? It comes from engagement from companies and banks, all right? A credible rating. I will loan money to AJ because I know AJ, or I feel that AJ will pay me back, all right? I'm comfortable with that. That's for Tom and AJ, but it's also the same for companies and countries. All right, so that's changing. So money is starting to flow. It has at the beginning. They're starting to flow again to Brazil, and that's the lifeline for any company. So that is happening. Unemployment in Brazil has dropped slightly. The good side is that we have more people working. You have more people economically engaged. We still have a pool of labor force that can still fuel companies coming here. They will have labor, all right? Labor that can be applied very shortly. The inflation has started to drop. Inflation dropping shows that prices drop. So the prices drop, the capability of persons to be able to buy more started to happen. So all of these things come together at one time. So that has helped the ratings looking towards Brazil be more favorable. So when we see this tendency for a more positive outlook, it goes back to the companies. It goes back to what we've talked about. Is this a good place to invest? Is this a good place for Indian companies to come? All right. And we've talked about the opportunities. It's there. The reverse is the same. If Brazilian companies are more comfortable, if they see a horizon that's more secure, they're also interested in going out and developing markets. They can develop these markets if they have access to money. So for a Brazilian company to go to India, which would be today's outlook a very favorable investment and opportunity, they would also need the money. So this is the game setter that I see that's happening. India is in a comfort zone, a certain comfort zone, as we compare to the rest of the world. Brazil is also becoming that. So when you have a comfortable business climate, that's when things really start happening. That's when the locomotive starts getting out of the, getting on the tracks and getting out of the station. And that's what's happening right now. And this is midterm Brazil. Historically, Brazil has always been stronger in the second half of every year. Companies also start producing. Here, the year end in Brazil, we talk about Christmas, which is an event here, but the end of the year vacations. This is the time when We have the harvest here, so more money from agriculture. Brazil has always been a strong second half. So my outlook for this year is going to be very stronger because of all of these indicators that we're seeing. So that's our word today. All right. This is where things are going. This is what we see in our chat number 4.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is indeed a nice thing, and the whole concept was that, we all as together, we see our countries fighting to strive for, for the rightful place in the global arena. So I'm sure this is a great news for Brazil. And in a way, it also makes me happy because Brazil is part of the BRICS. Brazil, we in India, a lot of, we look at Brazil as someone like us, part of that whole, if you call it a third world, which we are but developing very, very fast, and now ready for that big leap to be in the big league of nations. But I'm sure this step, along with several other steps, will bring in much more strength to Brazil's economy, and also make it not only stronger for itself, but also will bring that strength to the BRICS, and also bring much more strength to the India-Brazil partnership going forward. And that's a great step. So how do you see, Tom, this particular thing, the rating division positively is going to impact in terms of that now? Do you expect more investment from outside into Brazil?
Well, I want to say yes, because investment, part of the component of any investment, of any business environment, it's psychological. If you have money in your pocket and I have money in my pocket, and I think that next month or the month after I will continue having money, I may be enticed to spend that or apply it or invest it. As an investor, if I'm looking to countries like India and Brazil, and I see that comfort zone, I also am more comfortable in putting my money there because there are options throughout the world. What I see happening today, all right, is that Brazil and India, you mentioned the third world countries. We've heard them being talked about as being the emerging economies, all right, second tier or whatever.
Right.
I think we have to find a new classification.
Right.
And why is that? I would go back to that. I would call us and the BRICS the game setters. So it isn't to be big, bigger, biggest, the first tier, second tier, whatever. But the tendencies, the economic indicators are the same everywhere. When you look at the International Monetary Fund, they're comparing numbers all the time amongst all of the countries. It's sort of like a big scoreboard, right? And nobody wins the game, but you can favorably be positioned. So again, India and Brazil are favorably positioned, and that helps people who have the money need to decide on where to put it. The psychological aspect, and it's always risk. Risk is a decision that's not made on a monthly basis. It's made daily. In our world today, it's made instantaneously. So when I wake up here in Brazil, I already see what Asia, what India has decided on the stock market. You have already decided what my today is going to be. All right? And it's already deciding what the West Coast of the United States is going to be. So your day has already happened. You've already lived the better part of today. So the psychology of where are you in India going to put your money starts with that. If you're comfortable with Brazil, I'm saying companies in India. And companies in India have, I would say, and we've talked about that, they do have an understanding. As you mentioned, we have a feeling of comfort between countries, right? So the sameness is important.
Yes.
So part of that, if you start seeing numbers that are more positive, you as an investor in India, you as a CEO in India, who this morning had to decide on, and we're the start of another month. Where do we put the money here? A company in India has options everywhere. So psychologically, if he looks more favorable or sees numbers that are more favorable to Brazil, he just might want to decide in that morning meeting in India that let's do that. Let's invest more in Brazil. Let's go there. Things are looking good. They're looking better. So that happens. That happens. So you see, Brazil is being decided before Brazil even wakes up. And so that's where these numbers become important. And in boardrooms throughout the world, all right, that happens every day. It's constant. The chats, we're having our chat about India and Brazil every 15 days or so. But CEOs and the directors and the CFOs and the CMOs of all companies, they have this chat every day. They may set up a monthly meeting, but daily they're checking numbers. Daily they're seeing what's happening. They're adjusting whatever they thought would be their plan for July or August or September. That is being adjusted constantly. This information flows. India is the center of technology for all of this. India has been a center for customer satisfaction, customer involvement for years. So you as a country, you as companies in India, you have the pulse. You have a more feeling about many different economies. So that's positive. So the light back to Brazil and the engagement and these numbers that come out, the ratings, inflation going down, unemployment going down, those are the numbers that everybody's thinking about in business every day. Brazilian business persons do the same thing, right? Technology is the same here. Companies are interacting. Many companies in Brazil, multinationals, they're connected to the world. The world's connected to them. We have many European companies here. We have Indian companies. We have Asian companies, American companies, Latin companies. Everybody's here. So these dialogues, which are instantaneous, the Excel charts, happen constantly. But the psychology, we look at numbers, AJ. We do that. I do that. You do that. We look at numbers, but we have to get inside ourselves and adjust to those numbers that we see. Am I going to go? Am I not going to go? Do I assume the risk? And the higher you get in the company, the more responsibility you have. You have interviewed hundreds of CEOs, right? And you know more than I. That's how they think. They're looking at opportunities, but the decision stops and starts with them, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Most of these companies, they look at investments, they look at that money saved, they look at that their money invested is properly giving them the returns. And in those aspects, these ratings also matter, and they will certainly be, a lot of more CEOs, more global companies will be willing to put money into Brazil now. And I'm sure a lot of Indian companies will also start looking at, we have been talking about, profitable business opportunities, especially for small businesses. Even podcasting is growing, so that also can be one big area where, a lot of people can, because when companies come in, podcasting is a great medium for, as a marketing tool for individuals, for brands, for companies, for coaching, for coaches, for consultants. And when businesses come, everything come along with that, and everything else grows, even food companies and all, because there are a lot of international people will keep on coming. And that's the way the economy is connected with one thing or the other. From India, in India also, you see, the ratings are different now. We have also been dealing with ratings, sometimes good, sometimes not, sometimes very good. And this is the way. But as of now, India has a very special place because of the global dynamics, because a lot of companies, the countries now are looking to move away a bit of or quite a bit of their manufacturing from China. And it is their choice. They want to earlier on look at China in a day. It is like you don't want to put all your manufacturing eggs into one particular basket, and that is why they are trying to put it, which is the right way to do. And India suits them well because of certain reasons. One, it's a democracy. It's a big market in itself. More 1.4 billion people. It's
Right.
not a small market. Companies like Apple have already set up their manufacturing capacities here, increased their manufacturing capacities here, and that is a good thing. Other companies are also coming in. The other beyond democracy, we have got very good skilled labor in terms of a lot of, either be it technology, be it any other area, be it manufacturing, and that is one thing stands out good. It's a fairly stable place. Some states are much more conducive, and they are providing a lot of benefits for companies which are coming there. The labor force is also very good in terms of, you don't have to spend as much as you would have to in any other, say, bigger countries, even in the US or any other place. So this gives a lot of, lot of juggling power to companies, and this is where India is certainly going to benefit. And I'm sure this also applies to companies in Brazil, even small businesses in Brazil who may want to come to India. And the good part is that being part of BRICS, it is this brick is a good thing, but the other bricks are not good. So it's time for some good bouquets for both India and Brazil, I would say, in terms of investments.
Well, you got the term of BRICS. The BRICS was sort of an idea. It was a joining of countries, but it was sort of on the shelf for a long time. And we've seen recently it's having a more global importance. Recently, other countries want to be part of BRICS, which is, I'm going to say, something relatively new. I was just listening to an audio podcast about Saudi Arabia, and part of the discussion there was the interest that Saudi Arabia has in becoming a member of BRICS. And back to what you said, the stability of both India and Brazil, and the economic importance is not only from the economic standpoint important for the Saudi Arabia, but when we look at the logistics, one of the paths from Brazil to India is through the Middle East. And we're talking about logistics, facilities in air cargo, air freight, or even maritime. It basically would go through the Middle East. So that becomes a stepping stone in both directions. And so for Indian companies, and most times when we look at a map, we don't think of it that way. At least here, I'm thinking west, but no, we need to go east. And that could be through the Middle East as a stepping stone, a favorable stepping stone in terms of transportation. Most of the air routes, the flights that leave from Brazil wanting to go to India would be going through the Middle East. So that's part of an economic equation, but also the logistic equation of doing business. And as you say, it's a manufacturing point in India. It becomes even more important. Because one thing is to produce. But today, it's to be able to produce and export globally. And that's an advantage I see that India has. And that's also an advantage that I think Brazilian companies are seeing in India. They're coming awake to geography in a different way.
Absolutely. And a lot of countries now view India as a safe zone for either investment, long-term relationships, long-term partnerships, long-term business, long-term, that everything is safe. The business political environment is also very stable here. Even regional governments, as I mentioned earlier, they are giving a lot of incentives to companies. And now a lot of regional governments, state governments are also separately reaching out to the outside world. So in that aspect, we are trying to communicate that we are very much open for business. And if you come and open your business, it will not close. It will be very, very fruitful and beneficial for everybody. And we also want, at the same time, we have a Make in India policy also, So this is also enabling or giving that impetus to the mindset also that we
Right.
got to bring companies to make in India. We have had a long history of buying from outside. But now we, even if those companies are making and we need those things, we are inviting them to come make here and then send it out to the world. We will be your buyers here, but we also must be a part of that manufacturing process. And you tell us what you need, we will give it to you. And in that sense, I see that, Brazil has also a great opportunity in terms of having that sameness. And as time
I agree with you, but I want to reiterate that another competency, another skill set that Indians have, again, is the multicultural understanding and communication. And when we look out into the world, we see an interesting number of CEOs of major corporations are Indian. Obviously, they have the mental capacity to do what they do. But part of that, I see, and they've shown that, is a multicultural understanding of the world, of business. And when we look to other countries, it's not necessarily that way. So that is an advantage. And again, that's the advantage of doing business in and with India. Because that I've seen as a challenge anywhere. It's a challenge in Brazil. It's a challenge for Brazilian companies to get out. They have to develop a multicultural understanding of whatever market they want to do. And other companies or countries wanting to come here have to understand the culture in Brazil and align to that. But that ability to do that, India has had it for a long time. So I think you're probably a couple steps forward than other places are. And again, it's leadership in how to do things, how to open up your market, how to attract companies. So I think there's a lot of learning that Brazil can do when it looks to India.
Right. So this is a good development, good way to see things, and I'm sure as we go by, we will have more and more things to discuss on these aspects in this India-Brazil business chat between the both of us, and I'm sure we will get more perspective of things within the two of us from outside, and maybe going forward we might get more people to share their perspectives on this show. Any final words, that you would like to share on this topic, Tom?
Just more of the same. I think part of it, we're in chat number 4. What I would say is come back for chat number 5. There will be more, I'm going to say more of the same. There will be similar things of how we can adapt. We're learning, all right? You and I are learning with each other. And as we say, business comes from people, it does. But again, learning how to understand what the important things. What have we learned in 4 chats? A lot. So it's a non-ending thing. It's never over. It's always ongoing. So looking forward to being back and chatting again.
Absolutely. We both are learning. We both our countries are also learning. And as we learn, we understand things better. And then your communication, your chats with the world grow better. And I'm sure even Brazil will become better at communicating with the world better and getting more investments to itself. And that is such a welcome thing. And India also looks at the future with a great deal of hope, because we have got a lot of things to do. And India and Brazil together also have a lot of commonality and can achieve a lot together. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you again. Here's our chat number 4, which was live on KAJ Masterclass. You could find more about Khudania Ajay on LinkedIn. Again, his name is Khudania, the last name Ajay. Also on youtube.com/KAJ Masterclass. Thanks to our listeners and sponsor, Focus on My Market Intelligence, specialists in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their site, FOCUSMI.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Reaoch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.